Pennzoil Platinum Motor Oils protects your engine.
Watching from a nearby loading, what they saw.
So we were watching from the loading dock, and we basically just saw them storming checking the tree lines, checking the stream, and out of nowhere, everybody started to congregate back by the shed, and here they were already bringing them out. And then we watched him basically walk him up. One camouflage trooper had his gun, his rifle, and then they were walking him up, and they basically, EMS's kind of worked on him in the parking lot, and they loaded him up.
And you could see from the photo of him, he had a bloody face as well. We're told he was put into that armored vehicle here in the parking lot of the tractor store and then driven south. That's where he is now at PSP Avondale. Here is the loading dock that the workers were watching this all unfold. And I'll give you some context. There is where it all went down. You can actually see a large wood pile right there. State police had said he was hiding underneath some logs or some wood, so it's unclear if it's that pile or this other large one on the property. But as you can see, the terrain here is pretty much what has been described by state police for days. Very difficult, that thick brush, and then that canine dog that was sent after him as he was trying to dig away through that brush was able to eventually make that capture. For now, we're live here in northern Chester County. I'm Randy Gyllenhaal, NBC 10 News.
Randy, thanks. We've got much more coverage ahead at 11 a.m., but stay with NBC 10 on air and online as we learn new details of Danelo Cavalcante's capture and how the Chester County community terrorized by his escape is reacting to this news. Make sure you have the NBC 10 app for extensive online coverage, and we will be right back.
States, we have state correctional institutions, and then we have county jails. In this case, the Chester County Jail is run by Chester County officials. They'll answer those questions as to what occurred and what changes are ultimately going to be made. Certainly, the State Department of Corrections will be here to assist in any reviews or in any other work that they need done to make sure that that facility is secured. They obviously have a lot of work to do there, and I'm confident under the leadership of Chairwoman Moskowitz and District Attorney Ryan and other leaders in the county, they'll get that done.
Is it estimated that the cost of the manhunt is about $1 million a day?
I can't, put a price tag on it. We'll do our best to make sure that whatever can be tallied up is and is shared with the public. At the state level, I can't speak for our local or federal partners.
Governor, you mentioned the pattern of what time of day he would travel. Were there any other patterns that you picked up on that were key in tracking him, containing him, and then ultimately catching him?
There were a number of things that we picked up on, and he didn't follow the same pattern every single time. Seemed to like to travel via creek beds. He liked other paths of less resistance, wood lines, power lines, gas lines, that type of thing. And that's actually fairly normal. Nobody wants to have to force their way through very heavy underbrush and things. And again, I mentioned the time of day, but all of that combined with some outstanding work and technology is really what brought this to a successful conclusion.
Many people in Chester County are grateful for your efforts. I know you mentioned on Friday you were asked about containment and capture. Ultimately, that tactic was successful. Anyone that you would like to thank at this time? I know Landhope donated breakfast yesterday. Wawa has been big help with lunch. Any small businesses you'd like to thank? And then again, the people of Chester County.
I will tell you that we have been compiling a list, and I don't want to stand here right now because I will absolutely miss many. Some of those that you mentioned have been outstanding supporters of us, and I thank them. We will publish a list of all who helped us out because we are very, very appreciative. That level of support is really one of the things that allows our people to focus on the task at hand and to try and be successful even quicker than we might otherwise have to be. When I gave you all a tour of the facility in here, I talked a lot about logistics and the support that's required to field a team of 3, 4, 5 or more hundred law enforcement officers out there. It takes a lot to put it out there. And so the help of all of those folks, the help of the average person who stopped by and dropped off a case of water was very much appreciated, not only for the case of water, but also just for the kind thoughts of and words of support that they always included when they dropped that off.
You contained the capture, so that tactic was the way to go.
Yes, as I said, we always take a multifaceted approach, and so depending on the circumstances, there's always a contingency, and we're always prepared to move in whatever direction we need to. I'm sorry?
Were officers wearing any body cameras and all that?
I don't believe any officers on the tactical teams had them on.
The type of aircraft involved here with the heat-seeking equipment, is that a DEA aircraft? Was it fixed-wing, drone, helicopter? Also, did the arrest happen in South Covington?
It was a DEA fixed-wing aircraft. I believe that's South Covington. I would have to look at a map. We were operating in several townships there, but again, it was north of Prizer and west of PA 100.
Sir, where were you when this all happened? And do you have a personal feeling of satisfaction for 14 days of very long, hard work? How does this feel for you this morning?
I was here in the command post when the capture occurred, and yes, I'm very happy that this occurred and that no one was injured. It brought a new level of danger for all of our people out here in the field when we knew that he obtained a firearm. And so for me, the biggest sense of relief is that no one in the community was harmed and no law enforcement officer was harmed either. So that's the win.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
was the whole time, or did he set up a base camp or something?
No, I believe he was more mobile the entire time.
Sir, what prison is he being transported to?
we're not releasing that, but it is going to be a state correctional facility, and once he is secure there, I believe they will release where he is being housed.
Lieutenant Colonel Dennis, you said that multiple people attempted to help him. Did he have any means of communication to reach out to those people and coordinate with them as to where he was?
He did not at the time that we captured him. Yes, ma'am. Well, as I addressed a few minutes ago, yes, he had the firearm with him. Yes, he was a threat. He did not have an opportunity. I believe he was taken by surprise, and I believe the canine played a large role in him not being able to utilize that firearm. What I would tell you is, again, that it is our last choice, our last preference to use lethal force. And so while there were other options, the team did the responsible thing, did what they're trained and what we expect, and they used other options. And again, lethal force is always the last option.
He's going in for questioning. What kinds of information are you going to be trying to get from him? Like what kinds of questions will he ask?
We have the criminal investigators that have been involved in this, everything from the escape up through the time that he has been on the run. I'm sure all of that will be included in their list of questions. Whether he'll choose to talk, I have no idea, and that will be his choice.
Can you assure and guarantee the public that this man will not escape again, because clearly he has the ability to do that? Can you say that now?
I can assure you he will not escape while he is in our custody. He will be turned over to a state correctional institution. I have every confidence that they will be able to safely and securely house him as well.
Lieutenant Colonel, was he in the perimeter of the perimeter that you had outlined yesterday? Was that?
He was.
He was.
Yes, sir.
How close to the edge of the perimeter was he? Where in the perimeter?
It was within the perimeter, and he would have been within a few hundred yards of the eastern edge of the perimeter.
Colonel, in terms of the public being involved, there was videos surfacing of vigilantes in Chester County trying to get involved in this case. Moving forward, if something like this happens again, what would you tell the public in regards to getting involved in a case like this?
I would ask them the same thing that I asked this time, and that is, please don't come out and try to become involved like that. You potentially take away resources that would otherwise be spent on the search trying to deal with those individuals, and we don't want one of them to get hurt unintentionally.
How
Okay.
far was the capture from where the burglary happened last night?
Within a quarter mile. It wasn't a burglary. It was an alarm, by the way. But
Once processed, any idea in ballpark time until transfer?
it depends on whether he is cooperative and is interviewed. That could take minutes to hours, but I don't have the answer yet. Whether
Does he
he's,
have a lawyer? Do you know?
I'm not aware of that.
Sir, do we know if his sister and mother entered the country via Puerto Rico as well?
I don't believe his mother is here, and I don't have that information immediately available here about where they entered. As I said, his sister, though, is in the process of being deported now.
We have time for two more questions.
Lieutenant Colonel, after everything that you've been through, seen with Cavalcante, once that interpreter is there, do you plan on having a conversation with him, asking him anything about all this?
No. The investigators are quite competent. They'll gather the information that we believe is important if they're able to, and I'm confident that everything we need will be gathered in that way. There's no reason for me to have a personal discussion with him.
What's your message to anybody else who tries to escape?
Well, I think it's a very bad idea, obviously, and we will be here should something like this occur again. We'll put the team back together, and we'll be right back out after them. Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Atlantic City, so as far north as the tri-state area here in New York City, and then off to the north of that, especially as we head off towards, say, the New England region. We're looking at many threats across the table, along with that rip current risk, along with the higher surf. We do have now an opportunity for heavy rain, especially for areas like coastal Maine. But we can also feel those gustier winds a little farther inland, Amy and Stephen. We're talking about Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, that could be feeling some of those higher wind gusts because of how expansive Lee's wind field is.
That's one of the things that I see as a concern, especially following
At Amazon.
You look at the state of Connecticut, which is not that big, but it is a tree-heavy state, about 80% coverage with trees. And if you have saturated soils and even a tropical storm force wind of 40 mile, around 40 miles an hour, can cause problems with trees coming down, power lines coming down, et cetera. So, it's not a great scenario when you get a lot of rain right before winds come in.
And we've seen that time and time again. When I think back to, California with the atmospheric rivers in Sacramento, known for its trees, and then we had another round move in, and it didn't take much for those trees to topple over. The winds are going to be strong, and I'll make a final note of this, which is interesting. There's a map that shows the probabilities. It's issued by the National Hurricane Center of what are the chances we see these wind gusts, 40, 50, 60% chance. That normally factors into a set size of a tropical cyclone, this hurricane. They mentioned that Lee is above average as far as the wind field is, considerably above average. So that might mean those probabilities are slightly underestimated.
Well, and you hint at something that we talked about in Weather Command early this morning, that this could turn out to be a top 5 wind field in size. So we'll wait, we'll hold off on that, but it is in the conversation about how big the wind field will be with Hurricane Lee in the coming days. So we will stay tuned for more on that. Now, on this date in 2008, Hurricane Ike made landfall on the Texas coast. It was a strong Category 2 storm. Now, 2008, let's talk about Hurricane Ike, because it took a real similar path to the infamous Great Galveston hurricane from the 1900s. Of course, much different times, much different infrastructure set up against the coastline, but Ike's very strong winds sent 20-foot storm surge into the barrier islands near Galveston. It was really devastating. Wind-water combo here that decimated several communities and homes on the Bolivar Peninsula. There had been homes there that had stood for 100 years, beach cottages, et cetera. Some have been elevated. It was just, they were wiped off the map. It was the end of those communities. So it was a tough situation. I mean, when you look back at this, Stephen, Hurricane Ike is one for the books. We marked this date as the anniversary back in 2008. So many lessons learned from this storm.
There were, and it was a devastating one. When you go to different quarters of Galveston even, I remember I visited, when I worked in Houston, one of the candy shops on the Strand. There's a marker of where that storm
All right, at 8:23, we do have some very big breaking news. After covering this story now into its 14th day, we believe that this manhunt may have come to an end just a few minutes ago.
Yes, we are hearing that police are saying they have Danelo Cavalcante in custody, and we're also hearing there's going to be an official update from police that's going to be happening at 9 a.m., so not long from now, and of course, we will have that here on Fox 29. But remember, they had more than 500, different police officers, state police, FBI.
Now, Hank, it's probably going to be at Kennett Square again? Yep. Hank?
I don't know if Hank knows that he's
Oh,
on.
sorry. Yes, 9 o'clock in Kennett Square, which is tons of fun to make sure that the press conference happens a good 45 minutes away from the action. But I don't really care. At the end of the day, this is the authorities telling us that Danelo Cavalcante has been caught. What I'm getting unsubstantiated is that a third party called in a sighting down on Bridge Street in Bridgeport, and that's something I had seen elsewhere. I had seen that he had been seen on Bridge Street in Phoenixville, which is what was told. Don't have a ton of detail, but the word has gone around like wildfire, and there are a lot of troopers coming out. A couple of them have left with smiles and waves, so the word is getting around now. We do have it confirmed in the newsroom that Danelo Cavalcante has been caught. Mike, Alex, they were down around this area about a mile and a half south of here all morning long, working an area that's known to have some abandoned houses in it. They had a rumor that a back door had been taken off. We had a ton of SWAT teams coming in here. We didn't see any of it, obviously, because it all happened well within the perimeter. But that is the word now, and 9 o'clock, we'll get a much clearer picture of exactly what happened, where he was hiding, what he was up to, how he was dressed, and most importantly, how he was taken down. We're going to get all that at 9 o'clock from Kennett Square. But for now, there they go. City of Coatesville Police pulling on out. Party's over, in a way, but there's got lots of cleaning up to do. There'll be a ton of questions coming out of this. We got people yesterday talking about Chester County prisons needing to be investigated. That's not my call, but at the end of the day, when you got people escaping and this kind of manpower, this kind of resource being poured into it to get them back, you have to ask yourself the healthy question, Mike, Alex, how much would it cost to repair the prison wall in the rec area of Chester County Prison so that no one can escape again? And compare that to the cost that's been laid out here, West Vincent Police going by, to find him. How much money did they have to spend? How many man hours, how much overtime, how much resource, gasoline, all of it. I guarantee you that the manhunt cost a heck of a lot more than an ounce of prevention would have, but that's neither here nor there. Now is really more of a time to celebrate because, guys, it's been 2 weeks. There were times a week ago where I was sure he was in the wind. There were also times a week ago where I was sure they were going to catch him in 2 minutes. Now, according to state police, according to our newsroom, it is over. Danelo Cavalcante is in custody after a wild 2-week spree in which he evaded police in any number of ways. Amazing work by everyone involved. Guys.
Yeah, and it's good that all these officers can go back to their regular jurisdictions to protect their community. Hank, real quickly, did he say that the idea is that he was caught on a street in Phoenixville? Is that what he said? I know, Bridge, but in Phoenixville. So went back to where he used to live yet another time.
And this, of course, you know, his sister had been taken into custody. We know that they've been playing messages from his mother on the helicopters. But yes, this is now the second time that we know of where he went back to the area where he spent a lot of time and that he was familiar with.
Isn't that interesting?
Now, this is Sky Fox showing some police activity. We don't know if is this the exact location where he's found, or we're just showing.
Well, no.
Okay. Okay, this is just over different situations because, as you've seen over the past 14 days, there's been in different concentrated areas, we've seen a heavy police presence.
Yeah, not sure what they would be looking for, but if it's accurate information, he was caught on Bridge Street, right in which is the main drag of Phoenixville. He's not in the woods. He's out in a town, the quaint town of Phoenixville.
But we're hoping to hear all the details about how he was caught, his current condition, who all was involved, coming up in about 30 minutes from now when we hear from police.
It's going to be so interesting how they got it done. You're right. All right, we'll come back.
Long hair, and it's still, you know, dangling in his face there, but he has been in handcuffs, and it looked as if he was in an area where there was a lot of firewood, or maybe a lumber yard or something, and they were moving him from that location, and now you can see they have the different vehicles where they're probably going to put him into a vehicle.
Yeah, when we were in the commercial break, you're right, he was standing in a big mound of, like, a cord after cord of firewood. Because the initial report, we said that he was found on Bridge Street in Phoenixville, but this does not look like the main drag of Phoenixville, obviously. It could be just off the main drag of Bridge Street. But he does look different than remember the video from the Ring camera where he's got that green hoodie on? He looks totally different there. if indeed this is what we're looking at. You know what I mean?
Right. This is all a developing situation, so this could be a number of things, but it looks as if it could be him. But as you said, in the different photos that we've seen, he has looked different. It looks like they're taking a photo now, and it just shows all the work and all the, the manpower that's been put into this manhunt over the past 14 days.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like that.
Where they're posing for a photo.
Except maybe in a war zone. What?
Also want to note that the state police have put out about a couple minutes ago a tweet saying that the press conference is now at 9:30, where they're going to announce the details of the capture of Danelo Cavalcante. As you see here now, where they're posing for a picture, which would lead us to believe that this is Danelo Cavalcante that we're seeing right now.
If it's not him, we have a huge developing story.
Well, it could be someone who helped me. You don't know someone who assisted, but the fact that they're taking a photo and they're all gathering around would lead us to believe that, yes, it is him. But, of course, we just want to err on the safe side before it is confirmed. And I have a feeling maybe we'll see that photo an hour from now at the press conference, because I'm sure that's one they're going to want to put out after so much has been put in over the past 14 days. I mean, the governor even came into the area to get more details on the search and to say that he wanted to help provide resources. A lot has been put into this.
Well, maybe some of our viewers can tell us what service is this? Is this a National Guard? It's not a normal police uniforms.
And is that an Eagles shirt? I mean, I see the Eagles logo. Yeah, it looks like he's wearing an Eagles sweatshirt there.
The home opener is tomorrow. Sure, the Eagles will appreciate that. Say that again.
So it looks like in the officer's hand there is a .22, which we last reported, believed he had once he went to a local, it was a homeowner. He went into the garage there and stole a gun. And so we knew that he was armed and had been armed for the past couple of days. So it looks like now they're trying to figure out what to do next or what they're going to do with him, what vehicle they're going to put him in.
And where do you take him?
Mm-hmm.
To which jail? Until he's eventually going back to a prison.
Which was
Probably
the
federal.
original goal when it happened 14 days ago. He was supposed to be taken to a more, and there's a drone flying by, so that we'll have aerial footage of that as you see that drone there, which they were using drones to help find him. But yeah, they were about to transport him, and that's when he took the opportunity to literally climb up that wall and escape. And since then, it has been quite the search.
But see how totally different he looks than the pictures in the hoodie?
It seems like in every photo that we've shown, he looks very different. And maybe that was part of the reason why he was able to hide for so long. That, in addition to his mother, who did an interview with the New York Times that was released today, saying that, he's experienced, going without food for a long time because of his upbringing and being out in wooded areas or and surviving that way on his own. So it looks like they're putting him in an armored vehicle now.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell as we're so zoomed in, and we want to be because we want to see what he looks like and what's going on, but...
Yeah, they're putting him in a very secure vehicle here, armored vehicle. You see a lot of Pennsylvania State Troopers cars surrounding it, too.
So I just watched this TikTok, and apparently you're supposed to wash your washing machine. What's next? Wash my shower? Oh my God. Disgusting. I just grabbed this Tide washing machine cleaner. I guess you just pour it in.
So now he's in the vehicle.
How did this all play out in the final minutes here? It's going to be so interesting to learn the details. Now, again, the news conference has been changed from 9 to 9:30, okay. Right?
So this is the Coventry area. Say that one more time, Leon, our producer.
We're still in South Coventry.
Okay, South Coventry. And looks like they're making sure they got his hands behind his back there. And you can see from the back now that his sweatshirt is really torn and tattered, but he was wearing an Eagles sweatshirt. Now they're cutting that off.
They normally will cut off the shirts just to see if there's any weapons inside a shirt, even though they've checked him inside and out for that. You never know. They might want to get the Eagles shirt off of him. You know what I mean? Interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen that either, unless somebody was really severely injured.
And just think about what the different areas have been through over the past 14 days. Homeowners were forced to stay inside their homes, make sure they're locking their doors and their cars. Schools have been closed. Kids haven't been able to go to school, and they've also been told to stay inside. And, cars have been checked. They're stopping cars as they're moving through the perimeter and making sure that no one, is hiding in the back. This has been quite an ordeal for folks living in the area, and then also for law enforcement who've had to call in all the different agencies, FBI, Border Patrol, National Guard, state police,
We even had
different
Fish and
local
Game in there.
agencies. Yeah.
Homeland Security was there.
It has been all hands on deck, a 24-hour operation for the past 14 days, and now it comes to this, where you see him, they cut the shirt off of his back and hands behind his back, and now he's about to be taken away in an armored vehicle.
Okay, now it has been confirmed that it is. It is the escaped murderer. Again, convicted of killing his girlfriend in front of her children here in Pennsylvania, but also killed a man down in Brazil in 2017. Well, he's going to federal prison. That's his next stop.
So now it looks like they're taking off his pants.
They're at least going to cut his pants off. And so why don't we, you want to take a break? I don't think we need to see that.
Or we could zoom out. I wonder if we can tell Sky Fox to zoom out, because I'd love to see what the scene is around this, because I'm sure there's quite a heavy presence of all the folks who had to come together to make this happen.
Let me see if I got.
Okay, we zoomed out a little bit where you can see a little bit state police. And yeah, it looks like it might be the National Guard.
That's what it looks like to me, but I don't have confirmation of that. Obviously, it's not just, constables and police officers at different jurisdictions.
And I wonder, at this point now, while we're watching this too, there's been all kinds of, for the perimeter being set up, cones that have been going through. Folks have had to stop as they go in and out of the perimeter. All that now is going to be packed up and put away as we zoom out so we can see more of this situation. Yeah, it looks like you see there's some John Deere tractors and things. I'm trying to figure out where they found him, because this is the area not too far from where they originally picked him up, where Sky Fox was showing, where they were wiping his face and putting him into handcuffs.
I'm not sure that initial information about being on the main street of Phoenixville is accurate. He was seen, so maybe the most recent sighting of him was on Bridge Street, because obviously this is not Bridge Street in Phoenixville. But again, that's why I can't wait for this 9:30 news conference to give us the details on how this all went down in the last 30 minutes or so.
There's one simple vision hack anyone can use to improve vision, so you can say goodbye to your optometrist for good. Did you know that vision impairments
sources of how he breached that perimeter, if you will, out of the Longwood Gardens area. Could have been under the cover of the rain, or was it through the piping system? So there's still a lot of questions about that they're probably hoping to get answered too. And I'd be curious to see how forthcoming he is with a lot of his information about how he was able to stay on the run so long and make movements. And so when he breached that perimeter, going back to last Friday, or Friday to Saturday, when he left that area and then he stole that dairy van from Bailey's Dairy Farm, that was about 3/4 of a mile from the Longwood Gardens perimeter. And when he stole that van, that's where he was able to make it about 20 miles to the East Dampnell Township area. And so yesterday, in talking with one of the investigators, I said, well, wow, doesn't that makes it so that he's smart enough to move, he's smart enough to get out there. And the investigator said something very telling to me. He said, yeah, but he wasn't smart enough to drive away from, drive out of Pennsylvania. So why would you go to an area where, you know people? I guess in his mind it was to try to get help because he needed resources. But, their point was if he was really smart, he would have driven out of the state and figured out a way to get a couple of states away, because that would have made it really difficult. But initially on Sunday, when all those developments happened, there was a thought that at that point he was going to get captured. And so Sunday, the momentum was really high. And then Monday evening, the momentum was really high. And I will also tell you that investigators were really concerned. And that's an obvious conclusion you can come to, obviously, because there was a homeowner who fired shots who was put in danger because he was in front of this escaped murderer who now, had stolen his weapon. So the cause for concern has always been high by investigators, but the desperation and its level of desperation, as that climbed to get higher, there were fears about who could get hurt. Could a member of law enforcement get hurt? A member of the community get hurt? And as they inched closer and closer, and this kept going on and on, the odds of that happening were higher. So I have so many questions for Danelo Cavalcante. I mean, this whole escape has just been, it's fascinating to watch from a media perspective. Just the fact that he was even able to get out of that facility, the sheer will to be able to climb up over a wall, run across a roof, jump out, walk onto a main road in plain sight, calmly. They initially said the reason why he was spotted was that it was a prison employee that was driving by that happened to notice him because of what he was wearing. What if that hadn't happened? How much of a lead would he have had? Would he have still stayed within the area that he knew best? But again, 8:15 is around the time that he was captured. He was found. I'm getting a few text messages, but he was found within that perimeter again, hiding under foliage. Again, that perimeter was that one that was established on Monday after those most recent developments, where the homeowner was able to fire a couple shots at him. That homeowner did live on Coventryville Road, but that was within that perimeter. That includes PA 23 to the north, PA 100 to the east, Fairview and Nampney roads to the south, and Iron Bridge and County Park roads to the west. And that was the northern edge of the search perimeter. And again, last night around midnight, you started to hear a lot of that scanner traffic talking about tracking a heat source. And there was a lot of thought, since it was a little cooler last night, and from what I was told from investigators, that is better conditions, more ideal conditions for that type of technology. But realize, too, what you're tracking out there is, I'm sure when you have something monitoring heat sources on the ground over a very, very big area, about 8 square mile area of thick vegetation, where there's also a lot of wildlife, I'm sure there's a lot popping up there. Coyotes, deer, what have you, what else is out there. So, but it sounds like they were successful in finally tracking him down. Again, it was State Police's tactical team, their Border Patrol tactical team, and a number of those federal agencies sent over some of their tactical teams as well. The FBI has had their SWAT team out there. U.S. Marshals, their national team, I believe, was expected to arrive either yesterday or today. By the way, and I don't think they were involved in this arrest, but for the Eric Frein manhunt, which I was just talking about in 2014, it was, I believe, the U.S. Marshals national tactical team that actually found Eric Frein. So, but again,
biscuits with sausage.
Today, day 14, 8:15 this morning. This is all coming to a conclusion. Still want to get some more information about where he is going to next. And I was saying about just a short time ago, what the possibilities are. And what I was told initially is that the possibilities are if he is injured, seriously injured, then he would have to go to a hospital. If he doesn't have any serious injuries, but, this is a guy that's been out for 14 days, and if he's in the custody,
yeah,
what?
and those
Want to take this call? Can I talk back
yes,
to you guys?
Annie, yes, stand by because we.
Back to you, okay?
Thank you, Annie.
Thanks,
and
Annie.
we are getting a statement from Chester County Commissioner Marian Moskowitz. She's releasing this statement saying the capture of Cavalcante ends the nightmare of the past 2 weeks. We thank every single law enforcement official at the regional, state, and federal level that was out in all weather conditions all day, all night. They went on to say that the Chester County prison officials have made some immediate changes to bolster security in the prison, have brought in security contractors to make permanent changes to the exercise yards, and are reviewing and, where needed, changing procedures for both security measures and communication to residents who live close to the prison. On Monday, I was at the news conference in Unionville, Matt, and I was speaking with law enforcement, and I said, now that it's been, at that time had been 12 days, now that it's been 12 days, this investigation has been ongoing, the search is ongoing. Where are we at with the Chester County prison, and where were the weaknesses within their system and their infrastructure to kind of enable something like this to happen? How was he able to get out? We see the video of him kind of making his way up the wall to get over, but where are the weaknesses there? We know there were weaknesses in the perimeter that were set up, and they said those are weaknesses that they just could not get around. But moving forward, how is the Chester County Prison going to assess that? And now we're learning that they are making some changes, but it would be good to find out the details.
Stakes so high with the prison, with the people who live around it. The stakes were so high with anyone who lived around the search areas, worried that an individual who was convicted of murder was believed to be carrying around a rifle, and already someone had shot at someone matching his description. Chad Perdelli has been covering this story for us as well, and he joins us live on the phone with some of his own information and reporting. Chad, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. Yeah, obviously this is a very fluid situation. I'm talking to sources as we speak, and information is coming in. As you know, Cavalcante was captured a short while ago near Route 100 and Prizer Road. I'm told by sources that tactical teams, outside the Pennsylvania State Police and the Pennsylvania State Police team found his whereabouts using some thermal technology. You got to remember, overnight, some of the temperatures have actually dropped a bit compared to what we've seen over the past week and a half or 12, 13, 14 days. So they were able to use that thermal technology overnight, find his whereabouts. I'm told he was found under a log. Those tactical teams obviously found his location, began to move in, took him into custody. You've seen some of those chopper images. He looked bloodied a little bit on his head. Don't know the severity of his injuries at this point. Again, very fluid situation. Still trying to gather information. I'm told he's now going to be going to the Pennsylvania State Police Avondale Barracks. The interview process will then begin to learn more information about how he was on the lam for 14 days until his capture here today. But certainly a relief for everyone living in that area. It's been a long 14 days to get him in custody, but certainly Pennsylvania State Police and law enforcement across the region are relieved that they finally captured this guy, and it looks like finally the weather cooperated a bit. You've been dealing with rain. There's been fog at night that has hindered the efforts as law enforcement has tried to move in and capture him. But, yesterday when they, got that real-time tip when he had that encounter with the homeowner and stole that rifle, that was a real key moment because they've been waiting to get real-time tips. Some of the other tips were delayed by a couple of hours. So obviously he had a chance to move and to get away. But once that real-time tip, they began to squeeze his location. Using that thermal technology, they were able to pinpoint his location, and they found him under a log. And now Danelo Cavalcante is in custody, and certainly a relief to everyone living in that region.
Yeah, Chad, it's incredible to hear kind of the details that you're getting from the tactical teams about using thermal technology, finding him under a log. We've known all along that because of his size, 5 foot, 120 pounds, it's very easy for him to get into small, tiny crevices to hide. So that worked to his advantage. Law enforcement on Monday saying that while they were working on Danelo Cavalcante's game, now it's law enforcement's game, and they were working the long game. They said he was growing more desperate, so I'm happy that that led to his capture. We do have some reverse 911 calls that were sent out to residents this morning. Law enforcement said they would notify residents when they captured him. Let's take a listen to those calls.
This is an important message from Ready Chesco. Please do not hang up.
This is a message from the Pennsylvania State Police. The search for Danelo Cavalcante is over. The subject is now in custody.
Yeah, imagine hearing that when you wake up in the morning around that search area. So that's what went out to all the residents out there. Chad, I know you're still with us, and you said a couple of times he was found beneath a log. It's like the most primitive place for one to hide when you have all the technology that the police were using to try to find him. That kind of stuck out to me, that his downfall was basically sitting in the middle of the woods underneath a log.
Well, I mean, like you said, he's diminutive. He's, as Aliana was pointing out, he's small. And so, obviously this guy's been hiding in this brush. I mean, this has been some, really treacherous terrain for law enforcement to do their search. I mean, you're talking deep woods. You had all those ravines. You had some of those underground tunnels that state police suspect he may have used to escape that original perimeter. So, I mean, these were some brutal conditions in terms of finding, Danelo Cavalcante. But at the end of the day, I mean, I really think this thermal technology, talking to some of my sources, was really key in finally pinpointing a location so they could really move in and know exactly where they're going to go. Because literally, he's under a log. If you didn't have maybe some of that technology, you could walk right by him. I mean, that's how deep the brush is in that entire region. So it was really helpful for him in his escape and to be on the run for those 13, 14 days. But they finally got him, and now the investigative process will play out, and they'll obviously try to learn more about how he was able to escape, learn more about how he was able to break their perimeter, and learn more about what they can learn going forward in some of these searches, because state police have conducted a number of these over the years. You think of Freen up there on the Poconos, and they're difficult searches, and the public obviously is like, why can't you catch this guy? But it's really not that easy, and they're doing their best, and they're trying to squeeze him and find him, but it can be very difficult, and you have to work.
Chad,
with what you have.
we're getting some new information. I'm sorry to interrupt. Stand by 1 second. We want to bring Annie McCormick back in. Annie, I know that you had to go because you were getting some calls and some messages. What are you learning right now?
We have a little bit more information, and this is interesting. So that perimeter that they established on Monday, the one that we've been talking about, we show our viewers the map of it. They actually made an even smaller perimeter within that perimeter last night. Some storms came through, and then this morning when they went in, it was a dog that was part of the state police's tactical team or the Border Patrol's tactical team, and it was that dog that got a hit. And now I'm told that he was under not only foliage but also a pile of logs, and that's where the dog did locate him. Now, there's some reports that he was bit by the dog. I don't know whether or not that is true yet. If he was bit, again, he will get medical attention, and he's going to be taken now to State Police Barracks Avondale, and then from there, depending on obviously the severity of his injuries, he will be transported to SDI Phoenix. And again, we were talking earlier, I was, mentioning about how, the normal protocol is to take them to, you would take somebody to the county correctional facility of, where they are arrested. But in this situation, obviously he proved that he can get out of that. So that's why they're just going straight ahead saying we're just going to put him into the state institution. Maybe they feel that he's more secure there. I don't know if that's the idea of it. But so they're going to take him to Avondale and then to that facility, SCI Phoenix, over by Graterford. But what's interesting is that, you know, there's so many times that probably groups went through with a canine team and that got hit, you know, on his scent. And over the past couple of days, also too, with the public, I don't think realizing as we're starting to learn more information and more details are coming out about what happened over the past 14 days, is how close investigators were several times to getting him. And in one instance in Longwood Gardens, I've heard from some sources that they were incredibly close, to the point that they themselves were incredibly frustrated. So the momentum builds each time that there's a near capture. And, you know, the momentum builds and they were ready to go. That's why Monday night, I mean, we really thought that was going to be the night. But it sounds like, you know, they were patient. They had that technology that was up. Again, we were talking about the one that can monitor heat on the ground. That played a role. They were hoping to track him using that last evening. And I think from using that, they were able to pinpoint and then make that smaller perimeter within the perimeter that we were showing you yesterday. Again, that was on PA 23 between PA 100 to the east, Fairview and Nant Mill Road. It was within that area, and also Iron Bridge and County Park Road. So now expect to see a convoy. I don't know. Since I'm on the phone, I don't know what you're seeing right now as far as video, but expect to see a convoy with armored vehicles, heavily secured, you know, moving this guy. I mean, he's only 5 feet tall and 120 pounds. Yet this man is going to have more protection and more security than probably some of the biggest, potentially most physically dangerous inmates that they may have, because they're going to make sure that this guy never gets out again. And, you know, immediately what I started to think of was the relief that the Brandau family must have, how terrified those children must have been during this entire search. Cavalcante's victim, of course, I'm referring to her family. She was, you know, murdered in 2021. And, you know, her sister Sarah Deborah is her name, but her sister Sarah had done several interviews talking about how scary it was for them. And initially, when he went missing, or should I say escape rather, they put protection for the family members of his victims, her family, but also the people who testified against him too, because there were several of his friends who had assisted in helping him elude capture back in 2021 when he fled to Virginia, that then were on the stand and testified against him, and they didn't know whether or not he was going to harm them. You know what? I'm getting another call. I really want to take Aliana. Can I toss it back to you?
Please do. You got to do your reporting. Annie, get back to us as soon as you can. We have a live look at the Unionville Police Station, where we will be carrying a news conference for you at 9:30 this morning. So please do stand by for additional news surrounding the capture of Danelo Cavalcante. Eliana, I was thinking as Annie was talking about, you know, the danger posed there, and I guess we can characterize the murder in Schuylkill Township as a crime of passion. It was his ex-girlfriend, but how worried state police were that the violence would be directed towards someone else he didn't know, just because he wanted to maintain his escape status and not be captured. And sure enough, under a pile of logs somewhere in the brush of rural northern Chester County, state police get a hit from a dog, and perhaps also using their tools with infrared technology that finally worked once the temperatures went down.
Well, and exactly, and you hit it right there. I think a lot of people were nervous because of what happened with his ex-girlfriend, with that situation. I mean, when you are in a relationship or you're in a situation and there's anger involved, and you know, he's accused, or was convicted rather, of stabbing her multiple times in front of her children. It's a brutal crime. So of course, law enforcement all along were like, we cannot You know, while we know that he's in Pennsylvania, we know that he's in Chester County, we know that he's in these areas, we cannot underestimate him and what he's capable of. So neighbors, of course, were concerned about that. And when you had that run-in with the gentleman in the garage and he found that rifle, that intensified the fear, because now he's armed with a .22 caliber rifle, walking around Chester County, rural parts. Again, his size, right, can hide very easily. So this is something that people were saying, okay, now he's already gotten a hold of a van. Now he's got a rifle. What can he do next? So the fact that this is all coming to an end, finally, after nearly 2 weeks, is such a relief for so many people right now. I want to talk about this this thermal technology that Chad and Annie were talking about with tactical teams, because I think for people at home who are watching and listening to this, they're thinking, you know, crime drama shows and things like that. But how does this thermal technology come into play? Is this something that they're using with tools and devices from an aerial view? Is this something that they're using on the ground as we see them sifting through brush and that sort of thing here? How does that look?
Well, I can tell you that the state police will be talking more about that during the news conference at 9:30. They had said all along that we think we're having problems with it because it's so hot, and so everything is hot, and the infernal technology doesn't really work there. Catherine Scott has also been reporting on this all morning long, every morning throughout the week, and joins us live now outside the news conference with a preview of what's going to happen. Catherine, what do you have for us?
Well, we're just arriving here. We were at the search zone earlier this morning, and we were watching as law enforcement would be checking vehicles, and they had their flashlights looking in trunks of the car. So this was happening early this morning in that search perimeter, a really unnerving situation for the people who live here. But now we're at the command center, where there's going to be a press conference here at 9:30. It's set to begin. Let me tell you, this is a really different set of circumstances than how it felt yesterday morning around this time. Yesterday morning, we were also here for a 9:30 press conference, and that's when we learned more about how Danelo Cavalcante had obtained a weapon on Monday night, come in contact with a homeowner in an open garage, grabbed a rifle that had a flashlight and a scope and ammunition, and was on the run. You know, we've been following this, obviously, for the last 2 weeks since it happened, and we've been listening to law enforcement about the challenging circumstances that they've encountered in both of their main search zones. Of course, most recently, they were in South Coventry Township, East Nantmill, Warwick Townships, but also over by Chester County Prison. I was there the day after he escaped, and we were there. You know, we have the morning live shots. It's overnight hours. We pulled into across from Chester County Prison, 3:30 in the morning. It is pitch black there. You can't see anything off the road. So, and of course, they're dealing with these hot temperatures. They're dealing with challenging terrain. When they were over by Longwood Gardens, there were tunnels. There were so many different ways out. And the state police have said over and over again that no perimeter is 100% secure. And so even though they were throwing all these resources at this, he was able to get away, and they weren't helped by the weather. They weren't helped by the terrain. There are some waterways in the search zone that they were concentrating on over the last few days. So we're waiting to hear more about exactly what happened. But we know early this morning that the equipment was all in place. The helicopter from state police was in the air, looking for different hits from their infrared technology, seeing if they could find more about where Cavalcante could be hiding. Able to evade capture for the last 2 weeks now, but now we know that it's over and that he's in custody. And of course, we're here. This press conference is set to get underway at 9:30. They've been very prompt with the press conferences, so we're hoping to learn more exactly about what happened pretty soon.
Catherine, thank you so much for that live report, and we will stay with Catherine as this news conference develops. That again, we're expecting that at 9:30 with Pennsylvania State Police.
All right. Well, Annie McCormick has just given us more information. It doesn't get any odder than this. Danelo Cavalcante was found wearing an Eagles sweatshirt when he was captured this morning at about 8:14. He's changed clothes at least once, and now we know twice. First with that light-colored sweatshirt, the hoodie you see right there, and now it's a coincidence, but one to be noted. On the day before the Eagles home opener, the most sought-after person in the entire state if not the entire Northeast, is wearing an Eagles sweatshirt.
Yeah, and this kind of goes to what law enforcement were talking about. They would not say whether someone is helping or was helping Danelo Cavalcante in his escape and continuous evade from police, but they had alluded to it in a way that caused all of us reporters who were there at that news conference on Monday to say, so are you saying that someone is helping him or is not helping him? And we know that Danelo Cavalcante's sister is now in the deportation process, and was not cooperating with law enforcement at one point and was not necessarily not assisting Danelo Cavalcante. They would not confirm whether she is or is not assisting him. So we feel and know that there may have been someone helping him.
Chopper 6 is now live over Route 100 in Chester County, and what you see is the vehicle we believe that Danelo Cavalcante is in right now. The most protected prisoner in the entire country, perhaps, in that vehicle right now. It is heading down to Route 1's, one of the major arteries down there, to head to the state police barracks in Avondale, where our reporters say Cavalcante will be examined. If he needs some medical treatment, he might get it there, or he might go to one of the nearby hospitals there. Aliana, one of the other things that we might want to emphasize that Annie told us is that when Cavalcante was found, we were wondering what types of injuries he may have.
Yeah.
Was he indeed shot or not during that confrontation a few days ago? She said at the very least it seemed like he had some wounds, some bloodied areas on his head.
Yeah, and then Annie did also mention that there were some reports that a dog was part of the tactical team that captured Cavalcante this morning, and that dog had gotten a hit, and there's some reports that maybe he was bitten by the search dog. So what we still need to find out from law enforcement, if the blood that we were seeing on Cavalcante this morning during his arrest is from maybe the dogs, or maybe perhaps from the 8 shots that homeowner fired in East Providence or South Providence Township on Monday. So again, we're still trying to find out information about his physical appearance, whether he's going to need medical attention, and of course more on all of this capture and how he was able to evade. I have a good feeling that we will learn some more information about who, if anyone, may have been helping him.
Yeah, you've been covering this. Everyone knows how scared people were being in their houses, having to lock themselves up, lock up their belongings, their garages, the school districts, O&J Roberts being one of them, having to cancel classes. So just to reset here, Danelo Cavalcante is now in police custody. He is in that armored vehicle that you're watching right now as it proceeds down Route 100 on the way to the state police barracks in Avondale. He was captured at 8:14 this morning, and his condition right now is not known, but they say he is alive and he's going back to jail.
And we're taking a live look right now at South Coventry Township, where Danelo Cavalcante was captured at 8:14 this morning. You may be seeing some smiling faces, and that's because there have been more than 300 law enforcement officers on the ground searching for this man for the last 2 weeks. So obviously they're standing by now that the search is done. He is captured in custody in an armored vehicle heading to Avondale, and they are now, it looks like, kind of making their way out of that search area. Again, relief for more than 300 law enforcement officers who have been going day and night, hours on hours on hours, little sleep, little food, little drink, little to drink at this point, just to find this man.
Yeah, so 2 things that might have played in the police's favor. First of all, you had the temperatures dip a little bit overnight. That is when the infrared technology that they're using to try to find any sort of human.
Talking about what we know, but meanwhile down in here, guys, from Border Patrol and every police agency that you can name are pounding through the woods down here. But I want to make clear, it was the U.S. Border Patrol, a strike team from them, that I took a picture of back here, and they confirmed to me that they were the ones who took down Cavalcante, and I'm amazed by them giving me the opportunity to stand with them, take a picture, and most of all, to congratulate them. Karen, Tom will tell you, my photographer, I've been a little bit geeky ever since they took him down. Every state trooper that goes by is getting the hard honk, the thumbs up. It's been a whole lot of work. Should he have escaped? No. Should it have taken 2 weeks to bring him in? No. But the point is, we got him, and he's going to SCI Phoenix, guys, and what that is a newer sub-prison built within the Graterford walls. Graterford's old as time. So what they've built is the new SCI thing in there is probably a higher level of security, which when you think about it, Cavalcante's going to need all the security he can. The guy's already proven to be an escaper, and he's a convicted killer. So you want to have him in the highest level of security you possibly have, and he's on his way there right now, guys. Border Patrol did this. Give him credit and thank him.
Okay. Hank, amazing that you're right there on the grounds at Prizer's. So we're going to put up some pictures. If there are kids in the room, I'd say take them out of the room because some of these are pretty bloody.
And Bob Kelly was able to get these from some of his sources.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, this is the picture, obviously, after they cleaned his face off and taking him over into that armored vehicle in which they then cut off that Eagle sweatshirt. Now, let's, first of all, I want to go back here. Here's the live shot from Skyfox. What I think they're doing, just from watching the roads, is that they're heading south on Route 1 to the Avondale, Pennsylvania State Police Barracks, which, ironically, they have to pass Longwood Gardens, which was where they spent the first week or so in a hideout. And then maybe after he's processed at Avondale, maybe they'll be able to transfer him up to that CSI that Hank just mentioned, because they're definitely going, they went south on Route 1, south on 202 to Route 1, you know, going through Chadds Ford, past Longwood. The Avondale Police Barracks is in Avondale. It's just south of Longwood Gardens, right at the corner of 141. There's a big Target and a Lowe's shop there, and it's amazing how those cars are pulling over. Let's go to that shot again that one of my sources sent to me right after his capture, and we saw him having his face wiped off, so obviously he's all bloody there. Where that came from or how long he's been that way, obviously we'll probably find that out in the press conference, but you know, we saw the officers, the SWAT and the marshals wiping his face off. And then in that, let's go back to that other picture, if you could, that I sent over, where his face is clean. So obviously, you know, they cleaned him up a little bit. There you go. Before they put him into the armored vehicle that we're following now, that I believe is heading to Avondale. And I only say that because I'm just watching the roads, just figuring out by process of elimination here where they're taking them, guys.
Well, I was kind of wondering because you could see they had a roll of toilet paper out there and they were wiping his face. I thought it might be sweat or something like that, but it turns out it was. You see that right there? You guys putting down the toilet paper. They were wiping the blood off his face. You know, when you get a head wound, you bleed profusely, no matter how big the cut is on your scalp. So we're coming on back on camera here because we need to make some adjustments in the control room. It'll only take a couple of seconds, and then we'll get you back to the scene there.
Because in any moment now, we should be having this press conference, so we'll take you to Kennett
Square. We want to make sure we don't miss that, so we're adjusting some things in the control room. Yeah, Kennett Square, the same fire station where we've been for 2 weeks. It's going to be so interesting to figure out exactly what happened in those final minutes. Was he hiding under all those cords of wood? Or was he actually in a shed? We'll find that information from the horse's mouth.
I bet both things could be true. You may be spending time in the shed, and then you move, you hear people, and you're trying to hide and, you know, take cover where you can.
Hey, Scott, were you involved in the Eric Freen case or not?
No, I was not.
No.
That was a little outside my territory, so we were always on a standby, but at that point, we were not called further up. Usually we would hover around the border of Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. So Eric Freen was just outside where we hadn't supplemented.
In that case, I think that went on for days and days and days, and he eventually just walked into a field and says, okay, I'm done. Take me into custody. And I think he is at CSI Phoenix, even as we speak. Well, the fog is still certainly in that part of Pennsylvania and heading to Avondale, we think, for some kind of processing, and then eventually back to CSI Phoenix near Collegeville. So can we punch up at least the news conference? Okay, go ahead and punch it up.
Here we go. Take a look at it.
That's a firehouse where all the updates have been given over the last 2 weeks.
Outside of the store, in the parking lot, handshakes and hugs to go around. They were also going back over the area behind the store in the woods, and we saw them walking around a big log pile behind the store. They had evidence bags and markers, but it did not appear that they took anything into custody while we were there. And we spoke with relieved residents from this area this morning, but also the store manager of Little's John Deere. He described the moment when Cavalcante was brought out in custody.
We were watching from the loading dock, and we basically just saw them storming checking the tree lines, checking the stream, and out of nowhere, everybody started to congregate back by the shed, and here they were already bringing him out. And then we watched him basically walk him up. One camouflage trooper had his gun, his rifle, and then they were walking him up.
At one point, I think it was around 7:30, a police officer came and just said, "Hey, we're here. We're in between where we think he is and your house. So if he's going to get here, he's going to have to go through us." And that made us feel safe. So.
Monday night was pretty terrifying. We actually left last night because I couldn't do it again. But we just passed the brigade coming down Route 100, and it was actually pretty emotional. It was a scary couple days.
Scary couple of days for sure, and a lot of people thankful that this incident came to a close without anyone being injured. Now, the store manager here says he's really looking forward to getting back to business as usual, and of course, they're not the only business that was affected in this area by the search activity. Again, people certainly glad to have some peace of mind once again. Reporting live in South Coventry Township, Trish Hartman, Channel 6 Action News. Sarah.
Yeah, it's a good day there, Trish. Thank you. Well, the 34-year-old has been on the run for 14 days, and during that time, as you know, neighborhoods were locked down, schools were closed, entire communities were affected by this manhunt. So, as we've been saying, this capture brings an enormous sigh of relief to everyone in the area. Action News reporter Taronda Thomas is live now in West Vincent Township, with reaction from residents there. Taronda.
Well, Sarah, you know what? One word that I've been hearing over and over is relieved. That's what residents have been saying to me, because this has really impacted their lives. For instance, this parking lot for a condo and shopping center, really huge. It's empty now, but this entire thing just days ago was filled with police because it was a staging area for them as they looked for Danelo Cavalcante. Now they have found him and things have gone back to normal. But take a look at some of the video from just days ago when they found the van that Cavalcante used in his escape. Residents were really unnerved because previously they didn't feel too threatened when the original search area was farther away. Police made reverse notification calls to people in the area, warning them to stay inside, lock their doors, and secure their belongings. Police also set up checkpoints at intersections within the search area, impacting people's day-to-day lives and serving as a reminder that a convicted murderer was on the loose. That's why residents like Jennifer Klein have been glued to their phones, watching every update over the past 2 weeks. The news this morning was what they've been anxiously awaiting to hear.
When I heard the helicopter and it was like right over here, that's when I knew that they had the vehicle. So I was able to watch them transport him going all the way down.
On your phone? You saw everything?
Well, no, I was out here watching it as they were bringing him down in the armored vehicle.
I was actually following it on one of these YouTube follower things. And I think it was 2 evenings ago. And I saw they were doing a flight track of the helicopters and planes. And it was right over our house. I went to the window and I looked up and I thought, holy crap. Yeah, so it was interesting, and but we're very relieved. I think that's the big word for us.
Mm-hmm. And there's that word again, relieved. Every single person we talked to used that word because they've just been on pins and needles, not knowing where Cavalcante was. And things like businesses being closed. One person pulled over and talked to us and said, he couldn't run his business the way he wanted to, and other people couldn't because of that precaution. Schools are also closed. I talked to a few kids who were just hanging out around here because they're out of school because the search had been ongoing and the community needed to be safe, so those schools were closed. But something as simple as gardening, you take that for granted. But I spoke to one woman who says she hadn't even been out in her garden in the past couple of weeks just because she wasn't sure where Cavalcante was, where that search area would be. So things as simple as going outside, not taken for granted anymore out here. Now that Cavalcante has been caught, people breathing a sigh of relief and also praising police for sticking with it and getting him out of the area so now they can get back to their lives as normal. We're live. Taronda Thomas, Channel 6 Action News.
Yeah,
sigh of relief, things finally getting back to normal. Taronda, thank you. Let's recap all this. This is 14 days this went on. Started August 31st, right here when Danelo Cavalcante escaped the Chester County prison, crab walking up those walls. It was 9 days after receiving a life sentence in prison without parole for the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Now, September 2nd, Cavalcante was recorded on a doorbell camera just about 1.5 miles from the prison in Pecopson Township. He was then captured on trail cameras right here. This is at Longwood Gardens. This was September 4th.
On September 9th, Cavalcante allegedly stole this work van from a dairy near the last sighting, and that night was seen on a doorbell at a former co-worker's home in East Pikeland Township. But this time, he was clean-shaven. The search then intensified on Monday night after Cavalcante stole a rifle from a garage in East Nantmeal Township. Then word came this morning that Cavalcante was captured at his business in South Coventry Township.
We have been all over this. We have a team of reporters out there covering this capture. So stay with us for complete coverage later today on Action News, 6abc.com, and wherever you stream 6ABC. All right, let's talk about the forecast as, you know, we're ready for some nice weather.
We're ready for some nicer weather. Eagles start tomorrow.
That's right.
It's feeling a little bit more like football weather. Sky 6 showing us Philadelphia International Airport. You don't need to fly anywhere. The weather's going to be nice here.
That's right. Give it a couple hours. It's going to feel fantastic out there. As a matter of fact, the dew points across the far western counties already starting to drop off a little bit. Now, we had some pretty good downpours first thing this morning. I know many of you had the loud claps of thunder. The lightning probably woke you up, at least briefly, right around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Look at the downpours we had south of Philadelphia, Millville, Sea Isle, over 2 inches. Woodbine, close to 2 inches. Dover, about 1.8. Yet Philadelphia, not even a 1/4 inch of rain. So again, the heaviest passed on by to the south. All right, let's get you outside here. They're looking live on Sky 6 from the Commodore Barry Bridge. Got to look closely, but we're starting to see a little bit of blue in parts of the area here. 77 degrees. Dew point is still pretty high.
That is exactly how we are feeling this afternoon. Cheers resounded all across our newsroom this morning and, of course, all across the region with word of his capture at 8:14 a.m. I think it's a time that we're going to keep with us, having followed this for so long. A gargantuan, dangerous, incredible team effort, and so many people sharing their sentiments about that today.
It really was a sigh of relief, especially knowing that no one was hurt in the capture. That's what made it so much better. Alicia, thank you. In other news this morning, we are getting a look at ongoing efforts to restore Delaware's Washington Memorial Bridge. The bridge is 101 years old. It was renamed as the Memorial to Delaware residents who lost their lives fighting in war. Members of the Delaware National Guard gathered at the Sugar Bowl Pavilion in Brandywine Park to discuss the restoration project. Now, they say the ultimate goal here is to restore pride in its history.
Students attending Pennypacker School in West Oak Lane have new exercise equipment to help them stay fit. It's thanks to an $8,000 grant provided by the I Run for Life Gives Back program. The money helped purchase a Gaga pit that students can enjoy during recess. Staff at the school plan to introduce pickleball into the curriculum now that they have the money to purchase the necessary equipment. The goal of I Run for Life is to help fight childhood obesity. Officials in Delaware County are sharing the results of the Guaranteed Basic Income Program. Women who participated in the 24-month pilot program received a monthly income of $1,000. According to the Delaware Valley Health Mother and Infant Consortium, the program resulted in a 324% return on investment. There were also improvements in the women and their babies' health. The money also provided better access to housing and job opportunities.
Still to come on Action News, we'll have another check of your forecast.
Stepping live outside, Sky 6 showing us the Ben Franklin Bridge. Meteorologist Chris Sowers has an update from AccuWeather. It's been a morning, folks. We'll have more when Action News comes right back.
Around here, we like to keep things simple and honest.
Sure do. That's why at Progressive, we show you rates from other companies, even if they're lower than ours, so you can choose what's best for your family.
Comparing rates used to be a hard day's work, but not with AutoQuote Explorer.
Need me to help again?
No.
So join us and taste why Progressive is the name people trust.
Sorry, are we talking about apples now or insurance? Why is that funny?
They're here.
You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yep, it's got 3 rows.
So you. The second half is here.
Where do I plug in?
It's wireless.
That's so you. What do I do with these? Careful, it's kind of busy.
Oh, I got this with my superpowers.
And a little help from your Buick.
At the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
Current eligible Buick lessees get this low-mileage lease on this 2023 Encore GX Preferred all-wheel drive for around $199 per month.
There you go! That's what I'm talking about! Is this your plan to watch the game today?
Yeah, I have to watch my neighbor's NFL Sunday ticket.
It's not your best plan. But you know what it is? My plan from Verizon. Switch now and they'll give you NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube TV on them.
This plan is amazing.
Another amazing plan? Backing away from here very slowly.
Oh, Josh Allen.
Football season is here. Get NFL Sunday ticket from YouTube TV on us, a $449 value. Plus, get a free Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, only on Verizon.
Goldfish.
And the good guys won.
The massive manhunt is finally over. Convicted murderer Danelo Cavalcante is now in custody 2 weeks after he escaped from prison. Neighbors in Chester County could now breathe that sigh of relief. Wednesday afternoon, the big story on Action News at noon is the escaped prisoner back in custody after he eluded hundreds of law enforcement for 14 days.
Authorities say Cavalcante was captured just before 8:15 this morning near Prizer Road and Route 100 in South Coventry Township. A series of events that ultimately led to his capture first began after midnight.
Police say the convicted murderer was hiding in the woods. He took his rifle, seen right there, and began to crawl through thick underbrush. But it was a police canine that subdued him. Cavalcante now being questioned by police.
We have team coverage of his capture. Action News reporters Catherine Scott, Caroline Goggin, and Chad Perdelli are spread out across Chester County. We begin with Catherine, who's live from the Pennsylvania State Police Command Center there in Unionville. Catherine.
Guys, we were there early this morning at a security checkpoint at the perimeter. They were still checking all of the cars that were coming out. Police would have people pop their trunks. They would look inside with a flashlight. We also saw the choppers in the air, and we now know they were closing in on Danelo Cavalcante.
I'd like to dedicate those comments to the victims of Cavalcante and their families. At the end of the day, all of the people behind me here work for justice and for the victims. A close second to the people of Chester County. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate the dedication that you have shown us and the generosity that you have shown us. We are in your debt.
Danelo Cavalcante taken into custody alive. The manhunt now over with no injuries to law enforcement or community members. This was a major operation. Advanced technology, canines, drones, helicopters, all used in this effort. Police believe Cavalcante's normal pattern was to travel during the overnight hours, that he wouldn't travel during the day unless he was pushed by law enforcement. We now know shortly after midnight, a series of events started to unfold. A burglar alarm sounded within the perimeter. Police investigated and didn't find anyone, but they brought in more people into that area. Close to 1 a.m., they picked up a heat signal they began to track. Unfortunately, the lightning started up and the aircraft had to leave the area, but police secured that smaller area and held it through the storm, meanwhile bringing in more resources. Then, around 8 a.m., a tactical team of around 20 to 25 converged on the area where the heat source was, moving quietly. Police say they had the element of surprise in their favor, saying he was lying down and didn't notice them at first, but then he grabbed his gun and started to crawl under thick brush. A canine was released. The dog subdued him and the teams moved in. He resisted, but he was taken into custody. He sustained a minor bite wound and was brought in for questioning. Whether he said anything in his capture, officials don't know at this point that we're here, but there's certainly palpable relief. As the DA put it, weather problems, terrain problems, a ton of obstacles, but they never lost faith. We're live in Unionville. Catherine Scott, Channel 6 Action News.
He's finally in custody. Catherine, thanks. Let's get over to Action News reporter Caroline Goggin live in South Coventry Township. She's at Route 100 and Prizer Road, where the fugitive was captured, just there right behind you this morning.
Yeah, John, we are joining you live from South Coventry Township. Again, as you mentioned, this is where Danelo Cavalcante was taken into custody this morning. Police tell us they pulled him from this wooded area, which is right behind the Little's John Deere tractor supply. This is right off of Route 100, a very busy road here in northern Chester County and right by Prizer Road. And this morning after the capture, we had an opportunity to speak with the manager of this store. But let's show you some video first from the police presence here on the scene this morning, right after the capture of Danelo Cavalcante. That store manager says around 2:30 in the morning, neighbors in this area of northern Chester County reported police activity overhead and on the ground. When he and his son arrived to the store around 7:30, they saw a lot of law enforcement officers in the area. And by 8 o'clock this morning, he says things really ramped up. He snapped these pictures as escaped prisoner Danelo Cavalcante was taken into custody after a 13-day manhunt. And minutes later, he and other residents spoke with us about everything they saw and the relief that this is finally over.
We were watching from the loading dock, and we basically just saw them storming checking the tree lines, checking the stream, and out of nowhere, everybody started to congregate back by the shed, and here they were already bringing them out.
You know, it's just been a painstaking event for everyone, and locally to have it be so fixed, even though people say it's been, over 20 miles. I mean, that's still a small area to a lot of us. It's hit some really great places that we like to visit. Some of our own little private getaway places, like maybe even St. Peter's Village, where I think people thought he might be going next. That, just became very personal. And very much of us, many of us, were very aware that the terrain is tough to manage.
And back out here live in northern Chester County, focused on that wooded area where police pulled Danelo Cavalcante from this morning. As you guys can tell right here, this is a heavily wooded area with a stream just behind these trees. And people who live and work around here who we spoke with this morning say they really aren't surprised that the convicted murderer who escaped from the Chester County prison, that he made his way up here to this area, because they say it's really an ideal place if you are looking to hide. Right now this afternoon, they are just so glad and so relieved that he is back in custody. We're live in South Coventry Township. I'm Caroline Goggin, Channel 6 Action News. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Caroline, a huge sigh of relief for that